Have you ever walked into a room and immediately sensed something was off? Not because anyone told you, not because anything obvious stood out. You just knew. Maybe you noticed the way someone's smile didn't quite reach their eyes, or you caught a flicker of tension between two people who were acting totally fine. And later, you were right. If that sounds like you, here's what I want you to know. That's not normal. And I mean that as a compliment. Most people move through the world on autopilot, barely registering a fraction of what's actually happening around them. But a small group of people, people like you possibly, are wired differently. They pick up on signals others miss entirely. They feel more, process more, and see more. Today, we're talking about 8 signs that you notice more than most people. Stick around because by the end of this video, a lot of things about yourself might finally start to make sense. Before we get into the signs, I want to be clear about what we're actually talking about here. This isn't about being nosy. It's not about being paranoid. And it's definitely not about being the person who always thinks they know better than everyone else. What we're talking about is a genuine cognitive and emotional trait, a heightened level of perceptual awareness. Psychologists have studied this for decades. Some people naturally process sensory and social information at a deeper level than average. They notice subtle cues, patterns, and shifts that fly completely under the radar for most people. Some researchers connect this to what Dr. Elaine Aron calls being a highly sensitive person, or HSP. Others connect it to high emotional intelligence, deep empathy, or even certain personality types like INFJs or INTJs in the Myers-Briggs world. But whatever label you put on it, or no label at all, the experience is real. And it's surprisingly common among people who always felt like they were too much or somehow out of step with everyone else. Let's get into the signs. Sign 1. You read the room. Before anyone else does, you walk into a room, and within seconds, you've already done a full scan. You've clocked who's happy, who's stressed, who's pretending to be fine, and where the awkward tension is sitting. Other people are still hanging up their coats. This is called social calibration, and it's something most people do unconsciously. But highly observant people do it extremely fast and accurately. Your brain is like a high-resolution camera that's always running, cataloging micro expressions, body language, vocal tone, and even the silence between words. Here's the thing most people don't realize. About 70% of human communication is nonverbal. The words people say are almost secondary to the way they say them. The slight shoulder tension, the breath they take before answering, the half smile that doesn't match the eyes. Most people are only reading the words. You're reading the whole book. If you've ever been accused of making assumptions or reading into things, and you turned out to be right, this is probably why. Sign 2. You notice when something has changed, even if you can't say what your friend rearranges one item on their desk. Your coworker is wearing their hair slightly differently. The vibe in the office has shifted from yesterday, but nobody's mentioned it. You notice. You always notice. This is what cognitive scientists call change detection sensitivity. For most people, minor environmental or social changes slide right past their attention. But if you're someone who regularly catches these tiny shifts, your brain is doing something impressive. It's constantly updating its internal model of your environment and flagging anything that doesn't match. This trait can feel almost like a superpower in practical life. You're great at catching errors, spotting inconsistencies, and picking up on when something's being hidden from you. But it can also be exhausting because your brain never really fully turns off. When everyone else relaxes, you're still quietly processing. Sound familiar? Sign 3. You feel other people's emotions, like they're your own. Someone across the room is upset. They haven't said a word to you. They might not have said a word to anyone, but you feel it, like a low-frequency hum in your chest that doesn't belong to you. This is a hallmark of high empathy, and it goes deeper than just being kind or compassionate. For some people, the mirror neurons in the brain fire so intensely that they literally feel the emotional state of people around them. This is sometimes called being an empath, though that word gets thrown around a lot these days. The scientific reality is that some individuals are genuinely more attuned to the emotional cues of others. Facial microexpressions, body language shifts, vocal tremors, and their nervous systems respond to those cues with something resembling a shared emotional experience. On the upside, this makes you extraordinarily perceptive and deeply connecting to be around. People feel truly seen by you in a way that's rare. On the downside, crowded spaces can be draining. You often leave social situations needing serious alone time to decompress. And sometimes you absorb so much of other people's emotional residue that you have to consciously ask yourself, wait, is this feeling actually mine? Sign 4. You pick up on lies and inconsistencies. Fast. You're not a professional interrogator, but when someone's lying to you, or even just bending the truth, something pings immediately. Maybe it's that their story doesn't quite add up. Maybe their words said one thing, but their body said another. Maybe they hesitated just a half second too long before answering. Highly observant people are often natural human lie detectors, not because they're cynical or suspicious, but because they've been collecting baseline data on human behavior their whole lives without even meaning to. They know what normal looks like for most people, so deviation stands out instantly. Research from Paul Ekman, one of the world's foremost experts on deception, shows that only about 1% of people are what he calls truth wizards, individuals who can detect deception with significantly above average accuracy just from behavioral cues. Most of the time, these people don't know why they can do it. They just notice something feels wrong. If people in your life have ever jokingly said, "You can't lie to me and we're only half joking," you might be in that 1%. Sign 5. You process experiences deeply before moving on. Something happens, a conversation, an event, a casual comment someone made, and while everyone else seems to move right past it, you're still thinking about it 3 days later, turning it over, examining it from different angles, feeling it fully. This is called deep processing, and it's one of the most defining traits of highly perceptive people. Where others experience things at the surface level and move on, you tend to process experiences all the way down. The meaning of them, the implications, the way they connect to other things you've observed. This is both a tremendous gift and a real challenge. On one hand, you learn faster from experience, make more nuanced judgments, and develop rich inner worlds that drive creativity, insight, and wisdom. On the other hand, you can get stuck. Overthinking, replaying conversations, losing sleep over things that other people shrugged off in seconds. If your brain is the kind that never stops asking why, even when knowing why doesn't change anything, deep processing is probably at the root of that. Sign 6. Sensory details. Other people miss. Catch your attention. The background music is too loud, there's a faint smell that nobody else seems to register. The lighting in this room is slightly off and it's bothering you in a way you can't fully explain. A tag in your shirt has been gently driving you crazy for an hour. If this is you, it's not quirky. It's not dramatic. It's your sensory system working at a higher sensitivity threshold than average. Highly observant people often have heightened sensory awareness. Their brains register more incoming data from the environment, not less. This is a real neurological difference. Research shows that some individuals have a nervous system that processes sensory input more thoroughly, picking up on details that others' brains essentially filter out before they even reach conscious awareness. In the right environments, this is extraordinary. You notice beauty others walk past entirely. You're moved by art, music, and nature in ways that feel almost spiritual. You bring a richness of perception to everyday life that is genuinely rare. In the wrong environments, sensory overload, overstimulating spaces, chaotic situations, it can be genuinely overwhelming. And people who don't share this trait sometimes just don't get why you need the volume lower, why you need a quieter corner, or why that flickering overhead light is actually a big deal. Sign 7. You notice the gap between what people say and what they mean. I'm fine. No, it's okay. Do whatever you want. Ha, no worries at all. Most people hear the words and move on. You hear the words and immediately tune in to everything else: the tight jaw, the slight flatness in the voice, the way the response came just a little too fast. You live in the subtext. You navigate the space between what's said and what's meant, and honestly, you're pretty good at it. This is one of the most socially sophisticated perceptual skills a person can have: the ability to read implicit communication and respond to what someone actually needs rather than just what they said. This makes you an exceptional friend, partner, and listener. People feel deeply understood around you, often without fully knowing why. You're the friend who texts at exactly the right moment because you picked up on a three-word response that tipped you off that something was wrong. The challenge? It can make you feel profoundly lonely in reverse. Because you're so attuned to what others aren't saying, you often notice when the people you love are not being real with you, even when they think they're fine. And you notice when the depth of attention you give isn't being returned. Sign 8. You've always felt slightly out of sync with most people. Here's the one that might hit the hardest. For most of your life, you've probably felt a little different. Not necessarily in a bad way, just like you were operating on a slightly different frequency than the people around you. Like conversations that satisfied everyone else felt shallow to you. Like you needed more depth, more honesty, more realness, and found yourself quietly frustrated when you couldn't find it. You've probably been told you're too sensitive, too intense, or that you overthink everything. And while those words were usually meant as criticisms, here's what they were actually describing: a mind that was simply operating at a higher level of perceptual and emotional resolution than average. Being out of sync doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means your default processing depth doesn't match most people's casual setting. And that gap can feel isolating when you don't understand where it comes from. But here's the flip side of that coin: the people who notice more tend to connect more deeply when they find their people. The conversations are richer, the relationships are realer, the experiences are more vivid. You're not missing out on life. You're actually experiencing more of it than most people ever will. So, how many of those 8 signs landed for you? 1, 3, all 8? If several of them felt like looking in a mirror, I want you to hold on to this. The things that have made you feel too much your whole life are the same things that make you perceptive, empathetic, creative, and deeply human. Don't dim that. The world needs people who actually notice, who actually feel, who actually see what's happening beneath the surface. That's you. If this video resonated with you, drop a number in the comments. How many signs do you relate to? I read everything, and I genuinely want to know. If you're new here, consider subscribing. We talk about the psychology of personality, self awareness, and the inner life of people who feel things deeply. New videos every week. And if you have a friend who's always picking up on things nobody else catches, share this with them. They'll probably have already sensed you were going to. I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget subscribe, like the video, and turn on notifications.